Right? There's nothing that's expected under the hypothesis that moral error theory is false.
Wait, can you repeat it?
Oh, my bad. So you are making the claim that there's nothing that's expected under the hypothesis that moral error theory is false, right? Is that the claim? Because that's what I understand evidence to
Not
be,
really.
unless you're taking like a different account of evidence there.
Again, I'm not making any like inert claim when I say that there is no X or there's a like lack of this thing. I'm more so saying that from my seemings, there is no real actual like thing which points towards this entity that we would call an objective moral property. So it would just be a
And
lack of belief that
are
would
you saying
motivate.
that from so to be clear, you're saying that for anything you've observed, it doesn't seem to be anything that would at least raise the credence level, even by a minute amount, for error theory being false. Is that all you're saying there?
I think I've already like detailed what my like stance
I just want
is.
a yes or no. I just want a yes or no to the
Yeah, I've
question I just
already
asked.
detailed what I'm giving out here. I don't understand why I need to work
I
on
just want
that.
a yes or no. I want to stay very succinct. It's either you're making that claim or you're not.
Yeah, I could just be quiet on if I'm actually making this claim or not. Because again, I don't really
Well,
think
this
that
is
there.
clarity, right? I want to get clarity on the exact, like, I want to stay very succinct on the claims that we're making here, right?
Okay,
Just before
all
we
I
even
am
proceed in the
saying,
debate, right?
yeah,
This is
all I am
preliminary.
saying is that from the evidence I have, or from my seemings, or from where I stand, epistemically speaking, there are no moral objective facts, or sorry, objective moral properties.
Okay, and can you motivate those seemings?
Yeah, proof by contradiction would just be the motivation.
Proof by, well, that's a form of an argument. I want the actual argument.
What, as in a logical, like, what, a syllogism? Because if so, I don't know why I'd have to
Proof
appeal
by
to it.
contradiction is understood as a type of formal argument, and where you take the commitments of some view and you intend to show that there's some contradiction that's derived, given that we accept these synthetic facts, or given that we accept the commitments within the theory as synthetic facts, right? So when you say proof by contradiction, you are making a formal argument claim there. Unless you aren't, in which case, what do you mean by proof by contradiction?
Yeah, I'll just detail what I mean. When I say proof by contradiction, all I'm saying is that the claim stands as justified. Granted, there is no defeater. So you could just operate under some form of phenomenal conservatism where it just seems that I'm justified and such, on the premise that there is no defeater. So it would just be the lack of
Okay,
defeaters
and why
motivating
would
the.
I accept? Okay, can you motivate phenomenal conservatism then? Because now it sounds like you gave yourself a even further burden. Like, why would I accept that seemings confer justification at all? Right? It
Yeah,
doesn't seem
because I
like
think that.
that's true in virtue of like the strange seemings objection. Right? Like clearly you can have some
Okay,
seemings which are very strange, and you wouldn't say you're justified in affirming those seemings. So can you just motivate phenomenal conservatism or no?
yeah, explicate the objection because you said there was some objection there and then you tried to move on. So what was the actual objection
I
that you
just
were
said
positing?
I have I'm just saying you can have the feasible reason to reject phenomenal conservatism in virtue of this strange seemings objection. Right? Like just prima facie, it doesn't seem like uh there are any like things that will be justificatory, right? But I'm just asking, like, do you have any reason to say that seemings confer justification at all?
Yeah, I could say that seemings have some property which is going to work in fashion with what we classify as justification. And this would just be the case by virtue of some inductive argument where it just seems to be the case, or rather, sorry, abductive argument where it seems to be the case. Excuse me, that we have a seeming of X and there's going to be this lack of contradiction, as I said earlier. And I'm going to assume you didn't actually attack the thing earlier, which is proof by contradiction, because again, all you said was the formal argument, and I think I already gave the argument. I just didn't have to give a formal argument
Okay.
because I put that into question.
So
So yeah,
you said seemings have some property which would work in fashion with what we take as justification. What property would that be?
you said what?
You said seemings have some property which would work in fashion with what we take as justification. What property would that be?
Yeah, something that boosts the probability of X being true, and we could just say X is some proposition.
So seemings have some property which boosts the probability of X being true, given that you have some seeming. Well, that just sounds like question begging then, because I don't grant that at all.
Okay, so again, would you take it to be the case that some X within the set is going to motivate its reason for why we would take it to be justification? Because you can say that Like, okay, all you're asking me to do is say, why would it be justification? I'm giving the external reasons. I'm saying that the external reason would be that something within X is going to be the reason why. I'm not saying that X itself is the reason so far is, I mean, so
Yeah,
far
I never said
as
you made that claim.
the case that you said what?
I never said you made that claim.
That's
That's a
the implication
mistrack.
there. So when I say that, okay, like for example, right? If you ask me, well, why does this argument justify something? And I say because there are contents within the argument that actually, motivate the claim, or there are contents within the argument that are going to give way to some form of reasoning that's going to boost the probability of the initial proposition being true. That's not a question bag. That's just me explicating on how the thing that you put in the question actually performs the mechanism.
It sounds like you're okay. It's not. Look, we need to stop. We need to get back to the substance. We need to stay linear here. Okay, can you just name the specific property that seemings have, right? Because you said seemings have some property, right? And that property, okay, maybe you said that property was its probability raising. Is that the claim you want to make there?
Yeah, I could just say that because I think that evidence is just some probability raising aspect, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying that.
Okay, and why would seemings be probability raising? Right? Because we can take some account where uh, the type of things that raise the probability are dependent upon like the material facts, right? Like you're holding yourself to some type of universal principle where all seemings are going to be probability raising, right?
No, I
But
never said
we
that.
can hold. So you don't think that all seemings are probability raising, do you?
Well,
Is that just
okay, I
yes or
don't
no?
think that probability raising towards the same thing. Like, for example, all seemings would account for some X. No, I think it's conditional upon where the seemings are being applied, which will just index to the proposition.
Okay, so then you're saying that not in not all cases are seemings going to be the type of things which confer justification, right?
Wait,
That's
repeat
what you're
it.
saying there.
What are you trying to say that
You're
I'm saying?
saying that it's not going to be the case that in all cases seemings are the type of things which confer justification. Is that what you're saying there?
Bro, I don't like, okay, repeat it one more time because it just seems like you're just saying stuff. My fault. Go ahead.
Are you saying that it's not the case that
It's
in all cases seemings confer justification?
Yeah, I don't think it is in
Okay,
all
so
cases.
then why would I think that your seemings in this case, insofar as there being no evidence for, you have the seeming that there's no evidence for moral error theory. Why would I think that in this case it confers justification?
Again, because the thing that I'm like positing here, right, is that it's not some universal where seemings aren't defeasible. I'm saying they are defeasible pieces of
What is
evidence. It
that
would just
responding
be,
to?
are you done?
I'm just asking, what are you responding to right now? Because it doesn't sound
Yeah,
like
I'm
you're responding to
responding
the
to the
question I
thing
just asked.
I'm responding to the thing and adding clarity to what I'm saying so that the mistracks like this don't
Okay,
happen.
can you
Because
repeat the can you
say
repeat the question I just
that the
asked you?
evidence, what you're trying to say is that the evidence. Wait, you said repeat what? Sorry.
Yeah, can you repeat the question I asked you before you responded? Because it doesn't sound like you responded to the question I asked you. So
Yes,
can
you're
you just
saying,
repeat it?
okay, look, you're asking me, is it the case, right, that I'm saying this thing is not universally defeasible?
No, that's not the question I just asked you. That's a
Already
mistrack.
what's the
Look,
question?
the
Okay,
question I just asked you is you made the claim that it's not the case that in every case, right? Not every case of seemings confer justification. So I'm asking why in this case do seemings confer justification? Insofar as you're seeming that there's no evidence for moral error theory's negation. Why in this case does your seemings confer justification, right? What's the symmetry breaker between something like this and a case where the seemings do not confer justification?
because seemings are okay. This is literally what I was responding to, dude. So listen, seemings were literally the okay. Look, seemings are just some defeasible evidence, as I said, and I think you agree with that. Yes or no?
Seemings are no, I don't. I don't grant that.
Okay. Do you
But
think? Okay,
what
look,
I'm
we can
asking
get
this,
onto
I'm
the
doing an
evidence
internal
later.
critique
Okay,
right
look,
now.
look, look, look. We can get onto the evidence later. Do you agree that they are defeasible?
Seemings are yeah, but
Okay, so with that being
this is
right,
like this
okay,
is
listen,
look. I
okay,
need you to stay on
right,
track.
you need anything else? Listen, I literally didn't even say if you need to say. I just asked you a yes or no question. Right now,
I just need
you
you to stay on track.
listen.
Just
Oh my
focus
God,
on the question I just
what you're
asked you,
saying. I'm
because you're
trying
not
to
actually answering it.
rebuttal. I'm trying to respond. You keep talking. So listen. Yes, you agree that they are defeasible. All I would take that to
Okay.
be is that it is yes. All I would take that to be right is that they have some fault or they are faulty. I would just take the faulty mechanism. I mean, the faulty mechanism to only be relative to some defeater in question, which has not been presented. All I'm saying, right, to wrap it on back to what I was saying originally, is that The thesis that I'm like defending here, which again you didn't even let me give because you went straight on
You
to
didn't actually
critique
give a symmetry breaker though.
the other thing is that listen, it's okay. Look, what you're saying, right, is that what you're saying, right, is that I'm not actually upholding any justification metric for the claims I'm making, and I'll go through why
Look,
it's
I
the
need
case
you to just
right
breathe,
now.
calm
So
down,
listen,
pay
listen,
attention. Just
listen,
breathe.
listen, 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 listen,
Because you're
listen.
not actually answering. I just need you to calm down. So
No,
look,
you're not letting
you
me
said
actually explicate on my answers.
seemings are
Cutting me off.
defeasible. You said they're faulty, and the faulty mechanism can only be relative to some defeater in question. So do you want to say that the relevant symmetry breaker between some seemings conferring justification and others is just that there's no defeater for the seeming? Is that what you're saying?
To your question after I continue doing what I was doing.
I just want to yes or no to that.
So as I was saying, right, the moral error theory that I'm positing here, right, or the proposition under moral error theory that I'm defending
This is
is going.
this is irrelevant. I know the proposition we're defending. I
You can
know.
think it's irrelevant. I
Just
don't
answer
care.
the question I'm asking.
You can
Right?
think it's
You're pivoting because
you
I
can
just
think it's
asked you a
irrelevant.
very succinct question that has nothing to do with the proposition at hand. Well, it does insofar as I'm asking for the justification for why, or why would anyone think that seemings confer justification, right? Because
Okay, and
in
I'll
order
get
for
to
your
that.
argument to work, you need that to get off the ground. So I'm asking, are you saying that the relevant symmetry breaker between some seemings conferring justification and some not is going to be some defeater in question for the proposition? Is that what you're saying?
Am I going to be able to respond?
I just want a yes or no.
Can
That's
I
all.
respond?
I'm asking, is that what you're saying?
All
You
right,
can
I'm just gonna
respond.
talk. So yeah, all I'm defending, right? The proposition I'm defending is that moral judgments, these things in question, right? Or rather, we could just say these moral like
If you don't want to answer yes or no, we can conclude
are going.
because you're not
I
actually
can
answering
answer
the
the
question yet.
question after I lay out my position. Holy shit! Shut the
I
fuck
know your
up.
position. I can
No,
probably
you don't.
steelman your
You didn't-
position.
Look, what? Okay, what is the proposition I'm defending?
Yeah, you're defending that it seems to be the case that there's no evidence for moral error theory's negation, and that's why you're justified in
Okay, and
affirming
what
that
do I
there was no
define moral
evidence.
error theory to be then? What do I define moral error theory to be?
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're operating under the standard thesis, which is just that moral judgments purport to describe some objective facts, and there are no such facts of the matter. Right? Is that what you're using? That's the assumption, because that's what moral error theory is defined as in the literature. Or like you
Yeah,
can read
okay.
Richard
So if
Joyce
you're
or
gonna
Mackey.
look. Now let me explain. I will answer your question. Now, if that is the case, all I am saying is that I am justified in believing this because of the seemings and a lack of contradiction of the
Which is what I
seemings.
just said.
You asked
Thank
for the
you. So
okay.
then
Can you
this is a
listen?
pivot.
You asked for a justification of PC, which is what I'm operating under, retard. You said that I need to justify
Why is he
PC, right?
aping out?
I said that the justification. Listen, I said that the
Why are you aping
justification
out?
for phenomenal conservatism is that the mechanism under which you're trying to refute it from is irrelevant because the mechanism
Well,
hasn't
look,
kicked in yet
do you
to
want to go
refute it.
back?
Retard.
Do,
Now, if
do,
you're
do you
putting
want to
that
go
into
back to the
question,
question I
I
just
can just
asked you, which
ask
was
you,
a
why would
binary
it be
question?
the case that we are to absolve this under some
You're pivoting.
non-full
I'm
mechanism?
not going to
That's
be
what I'm
answering
saying.
this.
You
You're
aren't
pivoting.
listening. You're
I'm
just
not going to be
talking.
answering this.
Now, if
I'm
that's
gonna
going to be
explain why I'm
the
not
case,
going to be answering
then
this. Stop talking.
you
Calm
can
down.
no, you literally
I'm
didn't
not going
because
to be
when I
answering
asked
this
you,
question
okay,
because I
that what
asked you
you're
a
asking,
binary
I'm just
question and you
saying
never gave
if
me a
you're
yes or no to the
truthful
question.
and the
So I'm going to
feasibility
ask you the
with
question one more time. Okay?
feasibility is going to
Are
be
you
some
making the claim?
to
I'll just turn
negate
my
what
mic
I'm
up since you want
asking
to
you.
overtalk.
Why is
I'll
it
just
the
turn my mic up. It's
feasibility?
really simple. You're getting drowned out now. Thank you.
For the
Are you
feasibility.
making the claim? Are you making the claim that the relevant symmetry breaker between a seeming that confers justification and a seeming that does not confer justification is some defeater to the proposition in question? Right? Is that the claim you're making?
Already
It's
gave
just a yes or no, and if you don't want to answer that, we can conclude.
already gave the argument for everything I needed. We can
Okay,
conclude.
we can conclude here. I got what I wanted. It's fine.